So in the bottom left corner, we have none other than Darkforce, the blue Zerg from Alternate Attack. And across from him, we have Nony, the Liquid Protoss from North America. He is in red uniforms, and he has all the momentum on his side.
This is fixed cross positions on Antiga Shipyard, thankfully. So, yeah.
Oh man, on
dude,
ladder.
how many ladder games have you
Oh my
played where it's
gosh.
just like, whoa, I lost because of the positions? This is a really cool game.
Well, because yeah, like I've played a lot of PvPs where I scout the opponent last, and then I find out by the time I find him, I actually see the forge and cannons are actually at my mineral line. So, of course, that is my fault completely. I understand that because I didn't block it off. But I'm glad the crossbar positions is forced on this map. Now, Antiga Shipyards has a lot of interesting implications for Protoss versus Zerg, and especially because Andre, you edited this map specifically, especially the center of the map. Would you care to explain?
As you
to
can
people
see,
why you're a good map editor?
Yeah, there's 5 minerals in a single gas, and no, it's not 6 minerals in a single gas. Sorry, Frodan.
Why are you so salty, man?
5 minerals in a single gas. Why, you might ask? Well, a lot of the games we saw, as soon as a player takes that center control, they get an expansion as well. And it basically left no room for difference in styles. Players that, you know, it was just the easy choice. You always take the center of the map because it gives you great position.
Yeah.
It gets you an expansion as well. By altering it like this and making it limited resources, what you do is say, okay, well, there's a style where I can take beautiful position at the cost of resources, or I could take a ton of resources in one of these mains or these naturals, but I don't have as great as position.
Yeah, the risk versus reward with this new map layout is absolutely beautiful, just because, again, you can't just turtle once you get that 4th base, especially for Protoss. So we'll see whether or not Nony is able to execute that that plan that he's been able to really enforce from this entire series, which is 1 gate expanding. He hasn't been going forge, but it worked out in game number 1. Now, what's interesting is because Darkforce, he kind of stayed on 2 base for a while because he wasn't sure what Nony was going to do. We were talking about how he's kind of a scout-oriented Zerg, and he really likes knowing what his opponent's doing. But this time, he has to kind of capitalize because it's the best of 3 series. He's going to adapt a little bit to Nony's play.
Yeah, we'll see what he actually does here, because he might. There's a lot of things that you can read from Nony's play. Okay, so I've seen that you've done this Zealot and Sentry play. Maybe I can go fast roaches, catch that whole push off guard. I can actually sandwich that immediately, and all of a sudden, I've gotten a huge advantage from just killing your army. Another way of looking at it is, well, he didn't push for quite a long time in that beginning stage. Maybe I can go ahead, take my 3rd super fast, and be ready for that eventual push. There's a lot of ways to actually read that. Of course, you have to assume your opponent is doing the same build, which is in and of itself a little bit risky, but you know, that's a couple of things that Darkforce has to take into account.
You know, actually, Nony is doing a 2-gate expand here, and that's what he did in game number 1.
Yeah.
It wasn't the 1-gate expand. I apologize, because he did a little Zealot Sentry push timing, kind of, and it was not necessarily a timing per se, as he was trying to force the cancel on the 3rd. It's a little bit harder to force the cancel on the 3rd in this position compared to Ohana, though, because you did have the rocks protruding your ability to get flanked. Because you see outside here of the natural, there's a pretty important spot which most engagements happen, where most of the time Zergs try to defend, and so it's easy to get a 3rd for both players. You know, Zergs love getting that fast 3rd and then try to see if they can deny the Protoss 3rd, and that's why a lot of times with that ability to do that, we see a lot of Stefano style EVP.
Exactly, and I think Stefano style EVP is probably one of the strongest on this map in particular, and it's probably the most played on this map because it's I shouldn't say impossible, but it's really challenging for Zergs to get their 4th base, their 5th base, etc. Because, you know, where do you actually take it? Do you go to the center of the map, even with the minerals as they were before? It is quite tougher. Do you go all the way over the bottom right-hand position? It's susceptible to a lot of drops. You need to build a ton of spine crawlers and spore crawlers over there if you want to keep it safe. That's a very hefty investment to take 4th. So normally, you see the 3 base and just power heavy.
Yeah, and well, I mean, Darkforce is actually opening the same way he did last game, where he gets speed, and then he gets a Roach Ward in case for the 2-base push, or in case of that early Zealot push that usually comes. A +1 Zealot timing at around 8 minutes. But that's not what Nony's doing at all. In fact, he's getting his 3 gateways right after his Nexus, so he is going to try to see if he can set up for that 2-gate expand into 3 gates and then kind of play more reactively. And that's kind of Nony's style. He's playing more safe. All throughout game number 1, he wasn't taking risks. And if you listen to him stay at the game, whenever he does interviews, he just hates taking risks, and I can respect that. So Nony's sticking to what his guns are, but Darkforce, I mean, he's taking the same approach that he did last game. What do you think he has to change differently about this game?
Well, I would have loved 3 extractors instead of 4. The main reason is because I want to focus on minerals, get my third a little bit quicker. But the 3 gas is because it keeps you really, really efficient for just maxing out, not maxing out, but getting a ton of roaches for 2 hatcheries. I think that's a really efficient way to play. But here we go. Nony is actually pushing it with a slightly different composition. It is, in fact, Stalkers. And I don't like those force fields.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been cool if he caught them, but at the same time, it's 4 force fields. That's 200 energy, and that's a lot of time invested for actually no benefit because he killed 1 Zergling from it. At the same time, we do see several roaches in production, and we do see a couple of spine crawlers as well, so it's going to be tough for Nony to actually break it unless he has really strong force fields at this point. We'll find out if that's actually going to happen. The Stalkers are pushing out here, but at the same time, Nony doesn't have a reinforcement pylon either.
I think Darkforce will be fine. You can see the force fields go up. He's trying to get rid of those spine crawlers first, but the spine crawlers are in range of those sentries, so easily take them out. Queen goes down. Unfortunate for Darkforce right there.
Yeah, I mean, Nony actually is backing off momentarily. A Queen actually halts production significantly, especially if it's only 1 of 2 Queens, which it is. Darkforce now down to just 1 Queen, and he's forced a lot of units. And he knows that Zerg's not taking a third because he sent a Zealot over there as well. So Nony knows, okay, I'm still on 2 base again. And we're almost resetting to the same exact position as we did in game number 1, where Darkforce was forced to put out a lot of roaches and Zerglings early on to pressure from Nony. But Nony's actually just going to back off here and try to see if he can get out his Immortals and probably even take the fast third we're seeing.
Unfortunate, though, for Darkforce because he's going to be quite limited in the amount of things he can do with only 4 gases and 2 mineral patches, or I guess 16 mineral patches if you want to call it that. But that sucks. That's a really crappy position to be in because what can you actually do? There's so many different tech switches that Nony can do right now. It could be Stargate tech, it could be Robo tech, it could be Immortals or Colossus. Those are 2 different ways at actually utilizing the robotics facility, but it requires very different ways. One way requires Infestors, the other way requires Corruptors. So, you know, Darkforce isn't in a great position to make the best choices. That's the thing. He can still make good choices, but he doesn't know for sure if it's the best.
Well, it's making a really decisive one right now. 20 Zerglings instead of 10 drones right now. Because I was trying to do math. I can divide by 2. I did actually not. I'm close to graduating college, for those of you wondering. And he's not investing it in his economy whatsoever. You see, Nony is actually not that far behind in workers, 47 to 52. And with this much investment into army, one has to wonder, Darkforce is going to go for timing soon. Nony definitely smells it too, because when Zerg makes that much army and they don't actually do anything, they have to actually start taking advantage, either check the third, start zoning, prevent Protoss from having any pylons. And Nony realized at this point, so he's starting to move out here, but has to be really cautious, because if he's caught out of position, that's a lot of units coming out from Darkforce.
Yes, it's going to be dangerous for both of these players. It's going to be razor thin just because Darkforce doesn't have a 4th hatchery, or I should say a macro hatchery. That's probably more accurate. Having that macro hatchery is probably one of the most important things when dealing with any pushes, and Nony has the capabilities at this point to do a pretty huge push. We haven't seen him get a ton of probes. He's been, you know, pretty lackadaisical in getting them continuously. So he does have the potential to push in all of his money going towards units at this point, but no, he goes for the Nexus. Interesting choice.
Yeah, he hasn't seen any aggression movement out just yet. In fact, his observer saw the roaches and lings, and he saw their departure from the base. So he is completely aware. In fact, he should be completely prepared if he can get those the force fields preemptively. But he sees the destructible debris being taken out here close to his third with that pylon. So, Nony, what are you going to do? Are you going to section off the units accordingly? He has to be careful, though, because he doesn't want to get split from his main army, though. He's actually going to move out here, Andre. Is this the right move?
I don't mind this. You can see the force fields are very easy for him. 4 get put down. The roaches have to retreat. But there it is. Tunneling Claw has finished. He has Burrow already, so it makes the sentries a lot weaker at this point.
12 more roaches on the way. Darkforce is almost maxed. Nony's at 140. This is the death push here. It's coming about 2 minutes. It's going to come about 2 minutes later than what most Protosses are used to. But Darkforce trying to go for a huge flank here. And while the Zergling's attacking the third, or is he? He's backing off. I guess he wants to wait for his last batch of roaches because, again, this is supposed to be a max army, but doesn't look like it just yet as reinforcements are coming in.
And I gotta feel a little bit unsure in this position. I feel like Darkforce, even though he's max against 140, those Immortals actually do a ton of damage. And with 4 Immortals out in the field at this point, I feel like this Roach army is actually garbage.
Oh, we'll find out in just a second. He misses the force fields. Oh, wow. The Roaches get a good surround here and supposed to have a good concave with Tyler, but in fact, the Roaches are the one that has a concave, but the Immortals are going to work. How much damage do they actually do? Look at the Roaches absolutely evaporate, and it doesn't matter that the fact that Darkforce had max, as Nony was able to go up against the wall. His force field was enough to make sure that Darkforce could not layer more than 1 Roach, although the run by at the natural did manage to kill off a couple of workers, 8 workers, but none of actual consequence as Nony comfortably has 3 bases now. But the reinforcements from the Roaches here outside the natural and the third, some Stalkers are getting picked off. Nice targeting on the Immortal, but at the same time, Nony, he should be able to stabilize as long as he can keep his units together.
It's unfortunate for Nony. If he had Blink at this point, I think he has a really nice turnaround. A huge amount of momentum with the lack of Roaches out in the field, but because he doesn't have Blink, he's not able to keep his Stalkers intact. You can see the concentrates are actually hurting him so much.
Oh man, the force fields let some of those Roaches in, and oh no, I mean, where are Nony's Immortals at this point, and at small centuries? In fact, Nony's supply is dropping very rapidly while Darkforce is still staying high. 50 more Roaches are in production, but with another Immortal. Looks like Nony does hold yet again. Now he is starting to get his economy up. His third income is now starting to really kick in as he is actually taking the Harvester lead. And right now, Darkforce is realizing that his attacks are going to get less and less effective unless he does something drastic. He's still making a lot of Zerglings though, because he realized he killed a lot of sentries and there shouldn't be a lot of force.
Well, this third base is a macro hatch now. He doesn't have it saturated, so I think Darkforce was thinking, I need to end it right here. But as he saw, as all of us saw, it was getting less and less effective. He does not want to be attacking with those minimal amounts of units. He can actually remax at this point and go for another attack, seeing as the sentry count is pretty low for Nony. I think Nony really needs to get his sentry count as high as possible, because if he doesn't, these Roaches will be empowered a lot more than they should be.
Darkforce is gathering up for another push again, keeping his Roaches burrowed there. I actually like that a lot because he has to at least hide the count as much as possible. But the Observer doesn't actually see it. Oh, does see it right now. So he has a good catch, or a good sense of where the Roaches are located. At the same time, I like how Nony's also splitting up, keeping some of his Stalkers at his third just in case of a run by. For now, he's actually checking to Colossus, trying to see if he can get that AoE and see if he can capitalize on these chokes that are set up by this Diamond. And I think right now Darkforce, he's still trying to go for a remax, but is it going to be that effective? He's moving up the third ramp, but he does manage to get picked off, and the Roaches do burrow away, but again, he can't keep training like that.
And here we go, another engagement over here at the natural. He's just making sure that Tyler is staying put. He doesn't want to, have all that army actually going out into him. And all of a sudden, his third is under attack, because if he gets near those destructive rocks on the bottom left, it would be terrible. But here we go, another engagement at the third, and the Roaches look to be doing good damage, but it should be cleaned up as those Immortals, as we were talking about, they do a lot of damage.
Oh, but a flank here from Darkforce, and he's catching some of those Immortals out of position, and they're not necessarily protected. Darkforce, again, swarming those units, and Nony looks like he's going to win the fight at the third, but he should try to see if he can bring down some of those Stalkers as well. No, he doesn't even need it. In fact, Nony +2 finished just as that battle begun, so unfortunate for Darkforce, he didn't have +2 of his own, and he attacked into +2 with Stalkers, and Immortals. Blink is about halfway done as well. It's only a matter of time before Nony takes a decisive advantage at 69 probes to 57 workers, and the economy is in much better shape than his Zerg opponent.
As soon as that Blink hits, we're going to see a very dynamic shift in where the fights actually happen. You can see, look at this, Nony is actually taking the center of the map. He feels so confident, especially with that huge Stalker count. As well, he has the upgrade lead. You can see 2-1 against 2-0 at this point. It was 1-0 for the last fight, as you were mentioning. Here we go again, Frodan. Looks like another attack is starting.
Oh man, looks like they're trying to go. Oh no, they're getting into a very awkward position here. He's going to get surrounded by the Roaches, and the Colossus can't focus his fire. The Immortals are also under fire as well. well. Looks like Nony forced to warp in to try to trap the roaches. Will it be enough? The Colossus does go down, but the roaches do end up staying, and he's trying to burrow and unburrow, but a little bit of missed micro there from Darkforce. Actually, a huge missed micro. Darkforce losing a lot of supply, and all of a sudden, Nony is actually taking the supply advantage for the first time in this game.
This is unbelievable. Tyler was in a terrible position, and his blink was completely useless, but still he had the army composition and the amount of units to take out everything. Another hatchery is going to be placed in the middle for Darkforce, but that's a terrible position for him. His opponent is just a stone's throw away. All he has to do is get a single Colossus and move up. What is that, like 5 seconds? Not even. 5 seconds worth of movement, and his Colossus will start spraying on those drones. A terrible position for Darkforce. That's going to really, really kill him because it's wasted investment. 300 minerals gone. All those drones that are committed there, gone. They're going to be useless.
You know, Darkforce got the engagement he was looking for, though. He got the surround of the units. He just didn't have enough. He didn't have any, normally at this point, it's 21 minutes in the game. Zerg would love to have Fest just to keep those the balls down and basically doing a lot of DPS. But as a result, you see that Darkforce has been staying on a lot of roaches and Zerglings, and if you just max on roaches, 22 minutes in the game, this pure technology of Protoss alone will be enough to kill you with Stalkers that have +2 blink and now +3 Colossus moving out. And now Nony knows that he has all the initiative in the world because he's scouting a lot with his observer and realizes Darkforce does not have much.
He has control of the Battle Dome, and he's going to go meet up with the Zerg army. That's all he wants. Engagements, big blink up, and it looks like the engagement's going to start. Guardian Shield going down in the back. Great positioning. Is it going to be enough, Frodan?
Oh, the roaches are working, and Darkforce, he's not targeting the Colossus. The Colossus is doing so much damage as they are able to basically attack by themselves. GG. Wow, Liquid Nony takes the series 2-0, proving both of us wrong, but you know what? I'm okay with that because I've been waiting for Nony to break out for a while.
I know, upsetting a ton of people, and of course, it's so great for all those Nony fans out there. He won 2-0 against the big favorite in this series, Darkforce. What a great display of PvZ action. Just defending, identifying what Darkforce is doing, seeing that there's a lot of pressure, defending accordingly, and then just pressing on his advantage in tech afterwards. A great finish to his series.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole idea, I mean, behind why you need to try to scale back the aggression, but at the same time, it was one of those, it was kind of a 2-base all-in, because the whole idea is that he didn't really harvest from that third whatsoever. It was a macro hatchery, and he was going for that huge timing, but unfortunately just did not have enough, and, Darkforce still had opportunities to make it happen. He got surrounds he wanted, so you can tell that his battle tactics were still good, but in the end, Nony's defense and his ability to get that Colossus out was really big, and as a result, his economic advantage was just too large.
Absolutely, and we're actually going to go to a Nony interview. I cannot wait to actually talk to him. It's going to be after the commercial. Oh, man. Oh, man.
You can't see, but Gretorp's leg is actually going like up and down because he's really excited right now.
Excited.
And because, Nony's obviously a friend dating back to Brood War. So, guys, real quick, we want to thank the sponsor here for game number 2, which is, of course, iBuyPower. They're the ones who produce all the things. You can see the cases. Actually, if you can get the cameraman, look at these beautiful cases.
Oh,
no,
wow.
they're not actually on fire. That is just pretty much the paint design. And it's really cool. iBuyPower, thank you so much for producing everything and making NASL Season 3 possible.
They might as well be on fire, man. They are so hot. It's like we're watching, what was that one show that's out? Hunger Games. It's like they're wearing those jackets, man. Anyway, when we come back, ladies and gentlemen, Liquid Tyler will be on the screen, so don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back after this.